From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris with you on this Wednesday. We've got a good show on tap for you. Obviously, it's a busy day politically speaking, and we're going to get into a little bit of what we're seeing happening right now in Georgia, also what happens later today in Washington, D.C., and I'm inviting you to join in the conversation. We'll get the phone number up there in a moment. We hope to be joined by political science professor John Weil in just a few moments. We've got some technical issues working out with him, but we'll get him on the Zoom call here in just a moment or two to get his take on things. But many of you may have followed it. Some of you, like me, probably went to bed early and didn't know how things were going to shape up. Of course, we know the situation in Georgia is significant, not just for the state of Georgia, but of course for the entire country, because we're looking at the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. So as it stood going into last night, there were two Republican incumbents that had to hold serve. Now, if one of them wins and the other loses, then the Republicans still maintain control of the Senate. If both of them lose, then the Democrats will, because it'll be a tie, and then you have the vice president, who is a Democrat, who will cast any tie vote. So what we know this morning is that one of the Democrat candidates has won in the state of Georgia. Reverend Raphael Warnock has been declared the victor in one race, beating Senator Kelly Loeffler. All right, so that's one. The other race remains too close to call as we sit here now. In fact, I think there have been some issues with some of the voting machines and not fraud and stuff, but stuff where they've had to do things more manually, tallying up some of the remaining votes in this other race. And as a result, it's too close to call. But what they are saying right now is John Ossoff has a narrow lead over Republican David Perdue, the incumbent. And that narrow lead may be bolstered by the fact that the remaining areas yet to be counted are considered more or less Democratic strongholds. If that's the case, then it may be indeed that both Democrats win in the state of Georgia, which will give the Senate to the Democrats, which means that President-elect Joe Biden will be coming in Democrat president, Democrat House, Democrat Senate. You know, Democrats may say that's a great thing, but on the other hand, that means they have everything that they want, and there's an awful lot of pressure to get things right. And if things don't go right, there's no one to blame but themselves. So, I mean, you can make an argument for why, politically speaking, it is good to have a split in both parties within whether the House, the Senate, or the presidency, that there's shared, power as opposed to all in the hands of one. Because when one side has all the power, that can be a good thing, but it can also mean, hey, when things go south, there's no one to blame but yourself. We'll see how this all plays out. And then, of course, later today, we also know what's happening in Washington, D.C. The Congress is going to certify the electoral vote count for President-elect Joe Biden. And as we've heard, President Trump has challenged it, and he's asking some of the senators and some representatives to object to some of those electoral college votes, which they can do, and there will be a debate, and it's been done before, and it will be discussed, but it will not change the result in any way. It'll move forward, but there is a large crowd of Trump supporters there in Washington, D.C. That will be there for that, and so we'll watch how that plays out today. But you have to wonder what this all means, not only for the Democratic Party, but for the Republicans as well, moving forward and where things stand. And if you're President Trump, at what point do you continue pushing on this? At what point do you pull back? We'll have to wait and see how he says. But he certainly, was there along with Biden campaigning in Georgia. And, the results, you just wonder, okay, well, I mean, he pushed for it and it didn't work out. Who will he blame or otherwise? Is it his fault? Is he going to blame fraud? And I'm all for, looking into allegations of fraud if there's any proof. And I continue to see these folks protesting in Washington, D.C. and the like. I just want that proof to be out there, and if there is, look into it. If there's not, drop it and move on for the good of the country. That's basically the way it should be, but you investigate things along those lines. But the joint session of Congress required by law will convene today at 1 o'clock, and it will be presided over by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will be there. Of course, the Vice President Mike Pence will be there, along with Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. And the vice president's job in this is largely ceremonial. He'll be opening sealed envelopes from the states after they are carried in by boxes for the occasion, reading the results aloud. And contrary to some of what we've heard from the president and others, the vice president does not have the power to say, "Oh, no, I'm not buying any of these things and throwing it out." With good reason. You can imagine if presidents had a right to just say willy-nilly, "No, we're just going to reject the Electoral College." I mean, would have been done before, and what's the point of an election then, right? So we'll see. A lot of this is protest, which will raise questions moving forward, but it's not likely going to change any of the results with regard to all of that. So we're still waiting to be joined in a moment here by our political science professor, John Weil. But let's take a call from Joe, and we can take a few calls leading up. What do you think as you watch all this? Your take. What does it mean moving forward? And Joe, good morning to you. What's on your mind, Joe?
I just listen to all this rhetoric that's going on. Trump has done more to mess up the electoral system than any guy I've ever seen. The guy just won't face the facts that he got beat. And he's tried everything in the world to override this election. It's made a joke out of the electoral process as far as I'm concerned. The guy, he's I don't know. I just don't understand people that will back this guy.
I got to tell you, and we've got to go to a break to get our guest on with us. And I hear you. And look, the president has a right to say and do what he pleases. What is frustrating, and I'm kind of on the line with you on that, Joe, is, the supporters that are out there, one way or the other, and it's okay to support the president and what he stands for, but in the absence of the evidence, that's where it comes down to. At what point do you say, okay, I hate the fact that he's lost. I supported him and I believe in what he's doing and all of this, but just accepting, as other past presidents who have lost have accepted with grace, the thing. And to give you an idea of some of the, conspiracy, crazy stuff out there without any proof, someone texted me this morning video of some buses on the interstate heading to Georgia. I don't know, I guess. It looked like it was Georgia. That's what they said. And they're saying, well, there's bus loads of voters being bussed into Georgia to vote in this election. There's just some guy in a truck seeing a couple of buses. Who knows what kind of buses they are, and who knows where they were going and who was on board. But in his mind, those were voters going into Georgia to defraud the election. If that's what you got to do a lot better or go home. Listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to be joined by political science professor John Weil. Take a look at how things are shaping up from this point in and where we go from here. We'll be back with more right after this.